and you can join me and my special guests every Tuesday from 12:15 to 1 p.m. as we touch on issues that impact women of all ages, from knowing your worth and identity in Christ, fostering godly relationships, beauty, fashion, maintaining a healthy lifestyle, and more. And of course, we bring a biblical perspective to every discussion.
It's Women of Promise, the Grand Reset, every Tuesday from 12:15 to 1 p.m. on Isaac 98.1 FM. Sponsored by Furniture Plus.
Good afternoon, Trinidad and Tobago. I am Renata Singh, and welcome to Women of Promise. I feel like it's Tuesday comes back around really quickly. Before I blink, it's Tuesday. But it's always a joy to join with all of you lovely women around Trinidad and Tobago to, just have these uplifting conversations. The more that I have this program is the more that I realize there's so much that we have in common as women. We were just talking about that, me and my guest, who I will introduce in a short bit. But before I do so, I just want to recap what we've been discussing over the past couple of weeks. We've been talking about the foundation of true influence and how we as women can show up and have a positive impact in the lives of people around us, and also how can we develop that courage to step forward, because sometimes it'd be a challenge to put yourself out there, because we have these fears, sometimes even feelings of not being ready or not good enough at times. And today we are continuing that discussion, but there's a flip side to showing up. And for many of us, the issue is not if we are showing up as women, because I feel like that's something a lot of us do pretty well, but it's that we are caught in this race and we're trying to keep up at the expense sometimes of our own selves, our own health, and even our wellness. And joining me today is Mrs. Ayana Chester. She's a professional counselor, and she's here to help us unpack today's topic: serving from overflow and not exhaustion. Welcome, Ayana.
Thank you so much, Renata. It is my privilege to be here. Good afternoon to all the listeners. Glad to be a part of today's discussion.
I'm really excited for this one. I feel like it hits home for me. See that word exhaustion? Phew.
Yes.
And I feel like, again, it's something that us as women, we can talk about a whole lot.
Yes.
On a scale from 1 to 10, Ayana, how well do you think you manage in terms of not getting to that place of exhaustion and burnout?
Okay, you put me on the spot there.
I tried to lighten the mood.
Okay. I think reasonably maybe 7. There are
that's
times
good.
that it could tip. So the 10 means I'm handling it well?
Yes.
Okay, I was going the wrong way.
Okay, no. Okay, 10 means that you're handling it well.
Okay, 10 means I'm handling it well, and
Okay.
1 means I'm crashing out.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
So 7?
No. I was going
on the other
opposite.
side?
I think it's medium, maybe 5 to 6.
Okay.
On good days, I could get to the 7, 8. But it's an ongoing quest to make sure that I'm managing well. And this is even as a professional, I'm still navigating, because it could get to you.
It gets to be a lot quite often.
Yes.
Sometimes. I think I am with you on that
Yes.
one in terms of like just finding the balance, I feel like I do have, like you mentioned, some good days, but having consistent good days.
Yes. Yeah.
In some seasons is a little bit more manageable than
Right.
others. And so I want to speak to the woman that maybe in seasons where they're getting to that place of exhaustion.
Yeah.
Sometimes, a lot of times, in fact, we don't realize until it's too late.
Yeah.
But we want to have this conversation so that women don't have to get to that place where
Yeah.
they're forced to take a break, because
Yes.
like when you burn out and it starts to affect your health, etc. You're forced to take a break.
Yeah.
So we don't want anybody to get to that place.
Yes.
What are some signs, just from your experience, and I know you have quite a lot of experience in terms of your field and stuff like that, just kind of detecting, hey, I'm on my way to exhaustion or burnout?
Yeah. I think it affects different parts of us. Mentally, you could feel like you are maybe getting foggy. Maybe you are even so mentally, emotionally, and physically, I would say. So
Okay.
mentally, you could feel like the fogginess mentally, you're not able to concentrate well.
Right.
Emotionally, you may be a little more moody or irritable,
Okay.
right? Snapping easily, right? And of course, physically, it begins to affect where maybe you have headaches, you feel that tension. There's that tension we sometimes feel that goes from the headache straight to your shoulder area.
Yes.
Yeah, so as well as just the literally feeling exhausted, you don't have any energy. Those are some aspects that let you know, okay, you're nearing that place of exhaustion, of burnout, and that you need to start to take stock.
Is there a difference between feeling tired and being exhausted?
I would say so, because it's natural to feel tired. Okay, I had a
Right.
long day of work, I'm
Yeah,
tired.
yeah.
I had a long workout, I'm tired, There's a difference, so that's natural, that's normal, but the burnout tends to, and then the feeling tired usually goes away. Okay, I had a long day at work, and I take a good sleep tonight because it was long, and I'm better the next day, I'm
Right.
refreshed. But you would notice with the exhaustion and the burnout that, you could sleep and you get back up feeling exhausted. You wake back up with that same tension, and so it tends to pervade longer when it's leaning towards the side of exhaustion.
Okay, that's a key point there.
Yeah.
Like just how you described it, feeling tired, you rest, you're able
Yeah,
to
you recover.
replenish, you
Yeah.
recover. Unlike exhaustion, you're looking for signs. Hey, am I consistently
Yeah,
getting that little time to take some rest, but I'm not feeling
yeah.
my body doesn't feel refreshed.
Right.
It doesn't feel like there
Yeah,
there are
as you say,
times
you
feel-
wake back up. There's sometimes you wake up with a headache, and it's like, you went
Yeah.
to sleep with the headache and you get back up with it. That's a different
What
sign.
what are some steps persons can take when they're realizing, okay, right, hey, maybe they're a woman listening right now and be like, hey, I am probably, ticking some of those boxes in
Right.
terms of being exhausted or on my way to burnout. What can they do now to kind of like take stock and not
Right.
end up in the place where, hey, they crash out completely?
Yeah. It's a number of things. I think first is just that awareness of, okay, this is where I am. I need to just pause a little bit, because
Yeah.
sometimes we're just going. And it may mean taking a pause. What taking a pause is, if you have days where, you say they have 24 hours and I'm going for 18 of those hours non-stop. It may mean maybe cutting out something from your schedule. Okay, maybe I need to take a day off from work. Maybe I need to, this activity that I normally do in the evening, I need to cut off, because you need to just like interject something into the cycle of exhaustion or overworking yourself, to pause and then recalibrate. Okay, so in that pause, you're taking it to analyze, what do I need to do differently? What are the steps I need to take to refresh myself?
Yeah.
Maybe I need to write it down. Okay, clearly the 3 hours of sleep or 4 or 5 is not working for you, so you need to rearrange your bedtime routine.
Yeah.
And I know we'll go a bit deeper in a little bit
Yeah.
in terms of extending beyond yourself to the family. And so starting with yourself, that may mean, okay, rearranging. So normally I lie down in bed at 11,
Okay.
and I'm going to bed at 1 because I'm scrolling, and maybe I need to do something. I like how you're laughing. It's home.
Oh, yeah,
right?
literally, I'm like, whoa.
So we going to bed. Going to bed and going to sleep are two different things.
I like that. I need to write that down.
Yes,
going to
going
bed
to-
and going to sleep
Yeah.
is two different things.
So you go to bed, and then when you actually go to sleep is a different, it's hours later, and so
Yeah.
you wonder, why am I so tired? So, but I'm going in early, and so it may mean taking stock of those kinds of things, rearranging your schedule in such a way. Now, understandably, there are some things that are beyond your control. You have responsibilities. Maybe you're working and going to school, and so you can't change that. But there are pockets in between where, if we need to cut away and maximize on the time, because we can't ask God or subscribe for the extra hours plan where we get 28 hours instead of 24. If so, we would spend all our money to do so. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure we would.
Yeah, we all have the 24 hours, and so
Yeah.
with the 24 hours we can find pockets in there where we can reclaim some time to ensure that we're more rested and recuperated properly.
I am hearing somebody screaming from the other end, where am I finding that time? And let's be real, it's hard
Yeah.
to have to sit with your schedule and really assess, hey, based on priority,
Yeah.
what can I cut away?
Yeah.
But we have to do the hard work.
Yeah.
Because if we don't do the hard work now, we'll end up in another situation
Exactly.
and having to do the hard work probably in
Yeah.
a different way when it begins to affect our health. And that's what we don't want. That's where we don't want to end up.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of time as women, we are doing the most. Like you mentioned, family, you were taking care of the family, where we lead lives in our workspaces. If we're involved at church, still gotta go home, take care of the family, etc. It just, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Each thing is like, it's almost demanding our 100
Yeah.
in every situation. And like, how do we as women even navigate that dynamic?
Of having to give so much.
Having to do it all, but
Yeah.
still having to find, and I have a love-hate relationship with this word, balance.
Right. Don't run from the word. Don't run from the word. It's necessary, and I think just like I think in our pre-show conversation, we were kind of touching on the idea of even when we speak to overflow.
Yeah.
The concept of overflow implies being full to the point of running over.
Yeah.
And on the reverse, when you speak of exhaustion and burnout, it speaks of being depleted.
Yeah.
So I'm exhausted because my cup is half empty or almost empty, or you reach to the dregs. And so overflow is another dynamic. It means something has to be poured in order for us to get to that place of overflow, and that we can function and give as we ought to when we're serving, and serve effectively. Because as you alluded to, we all have to serve regardless. We wear so many hats that by definition, as women, we are serving. We are serving in our marriage. We are serving in our as mothers. We are serving in our workspaces. We are serving in ministry, in our families. Extended families, etc. Our friends. There's so much required of us, and so regardless, we are serving. Naturally, we are serving, but it's the how. Are we serving, as you say, from that place of exhaustion or the overflow? And the overflow implies I'm being filled with something that I'm pouring over. And, going to that point, what am I being filled with?
Yeah.
If I'm just pouring out, oftentimes you hear the phrase, you can't pour from an empty cup. And it sounds nice. You're like, okay, nice. Yes, but what do I fill the cup with? How do I fill the cup in the first place?
And what you fill it with matters.
Exactly. Yeah. Oftentimes we speak about self-care, and we say, self-care is the key to ensure that we can be filled, to refuel. But self-care, when we think about self-care, let me ask you, when you think about self-care, what comes to mind?
You want the honest answer?
Yes, I want the honest one.
The immediate thought is me at a spa,
right?
Getting pampered.
Yes.
That's the first thought that pops into my mind.
And
I know it's more than that. Just FYI.
Yeah. But the reality is that's what we go to. We think,
Yes.
okay, I need to set aside a day, and I need to go to the spa. I need to do my nails. And honestly, we can't do that every day. We can't do that every weekend. Maybe some of us, But it's not something that can really refuel us. If we're being honest. And so we need to look at something that we can daily go and get the high that we get from being pampered and getting a massage. And so it speaks to daily finding an avenue to pour back into yourself. That's why I said one of the things is the choices that we make in terms of being well rested. That's self-care. Getting enough rest, putting down the phone, turning down the phone, switching it off, let's say at 10. And making sure that I go to sleep when I go to bed. Yeah, that's self-care. Yeah, drinking enough water is self-care.
Yeah.
Doing your devotions, that's self-care. And I want to touch on, the example that we have in Christ. When he, we look at him and he had so much to do in such a short space of time.
Yes.
When we look at his ministry, it was about 3 years, and he had a lot to accomplish. All that we know of his life and ministry was compressed into that short span of time, and yet he was able to do so much with so much power that when we look at his template and his model, it went back to what he did every day. So many scriptures speak about him separating himself and going to a lonely place and praying and connecting with the Father. And I think that's the key, that's the hack. If you're looking for a hack, you want the hack. The hack to getting to the overflow is really connecting to our Maker and allowing him to pour into us.
Absolutely.
Every single day. And it's a challenge. I can admit I am not a morning person.
Yeah, look, I
And
know you're
that's a
speaking my
morning
language.
person. So when we hear that, you think, okay, we picture the morning people and they're up and they're bubbly at 4,
Yes.
and
With
they're
their cup
ready
of
to go with
coffee, their journal,
book and
their Bible.
yeah, and it sounds, I picture it, I admit I picture it and I'm like, okay, so sometimes it may mean that might be the night time for you instead, that might be,
Yes.
that might be 11 if everybody's in bed, that may mean the middle of the day depending on your work schedule and your what you're allowed to do in that particular space. And so it doesn't have to necessarily be that prescribed time, but it means you're finding that spot in the day to refuel. We have to reframe that experience to,
Yes.
this is me being full to the overflow. So I want the strength to deal with the rest of the day, by 9 p.m., by not 9, by 6 p.m. I'm overstimulated because everybody's home and everybody's asking me for something at the same time. Yes, the refuel, in order to refuel and be able to survive from 6 to whenever I go to bed or for the entire day, it speaks to being filled from the beginning of the day so that I can manage and I can
The
navigate.
rest,
Yeah, that's the hack. If you want one, you can take note of this.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like that this is something that it's so fundamental and elementary. It's basics, right?
Yeah.
But we have to go back to the basics because if we don't get the foundation right,
Yeah.
everything else kind of crumbles,
Yeah.
I want to tell a story here. A couple years ago, and y'all will laugh at me because you'll be like, oh my god, that is such a quote-unquote woman thing, right?
Right.
Here, I'm going to tell my story. So I was driving home, right? And I was not paying attention to my gas.
Okay. Woman
So I
story,
live
yes.
south.
I'm raising
Exit,
my
you
hand.
understand, right?
Yes.
So I got to like Coover area and I see the gas tank light come on. I was like, wait boy, do I need to stop for gas? Or can I make it down to south? So I actually stopped in Coover for gas at the gas station, tried to pay and stuff like that, and I wasn't able to pay. The card wasn't working. So I was
Right.
like, okay, right. I need to move from here. I needed to get to south at a specific time, right? But I remember that light being on and the anxiety
Yes.
and the fear
Yeah.
and everything that came with depletion.
Yeah.
And so it reminds me a lot of that feeling when you're getting to that
Yeah.
burnout phase.
Yeah.
Not being filled, like, and you're using that term being filled, and it's so important that we don't get ourselves to that point where we're still going,
Yeah.
we're still going, but we know we're seeing the light on and we're not doing anything about
Yes.
it. I want to speak to the woman that is seeing the light
Yeah.
on and they're not doing anything about it. The light coming on is a sign that, hey, you need to shift some things.
Yes.
Shift it while you can. Shift it while it may still be in your quote unquote control.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to get to the place where we shut down.
Yeah.
Because then that's a whole other situation and requires a whole other different sort of approach, etc. But we're gonna go to a short break on that note. I hope you guys didn't laugh at me too much for almost from possibly shutting down. Oh, by the way, I didn't finish that. Sorry, I did not shut down.
Okay.
I made it to south
Ah.
with the do not follow my advice on this, right? Do not drive from Coover to south with your gas lights on. It's not recommended. But if you were ever wondering if it was possible, it definitely is. We'll be right back.
Women of Promise is back. The Grand Reset with our new host, Renata Singh.
Hey, it's your girl Renata, and you can join me and my special guests every Tuesday from 12:15 to 1 p.m. as we touch on issues that impact women of all ages, from knowing your worth and identity in Christ, fostering godly relationships, beauty, fashion, maintaining a healthy lifestyle, and more. And of course, we bring a biblical perspective to every discussion.
It's Women of Promise, the Grand Reset, every Tuesday from 12:15 to 1 p.m. on Isaac 98.1 FM. Sponsored by Furniture Plus.
Guide. Affordable services, go home in style. It's about family. We come right away.
JE Guide Funeral Home and Crematorium Limited.
Once a day. Ambience, we do it right.
Call us at 235-5049.
J.E. Guide.
Welcome back to Women of Promise. If you're now joining, I am joined by Ayana Chester, and we're talking about serving from overflow and not exhaustion. Before we went to break, we kind of established that we cannot pour from an empty cup, so to speak. But then how do we serve from a place of overflow? So we talked about the exhaustion.
Right.
What's the flip side to that is obviously serving from a place of overflow. But what does that look like?
Okay, so as far as the steps are concerned, or to get to that point,
To
right?
get to that point,
yeah. I think, well, as I mentioned, the being filled in the right way.
Yeah.
And then we also have to manage some of the other practices that I think maybe we are prone to do.
Okay.
So one of the things we often do is we struggle with saying no.
Whew.
Yeah. It's difficult for us to say no because, as I said, we so accustomed serving that it's a challenge for us. And, there are so many schools of thought. And even as we read and we see so many things showing up out there on social media and in all the different platforms that tell us and give us tips, we
Yes.
always have to sift everything according to God's
Absolutely.
word, And so out there they tell you, learn to say no without apology, without explanation. And I wouldn't go to that extreme, but it speaks to just probably analyzing what you say yes to.
Yes.
Yeah, and not necessarily going into the other extreme of saying I don't want to say, everything is no. I'm protecting my peace. I am, closing off for my benefit. It's not about going to that extreme, but we analyze. So one of the things I've begun to adopt, for example, is pausing before I answer.
Okay.
So, for example, when I was called to come today, normally I'm like, okay, yes, I'm free. But I just take the step of, let me say I'll get back to you. So I take my time and pause and analyze what does this commitment require of me.
Yeah.
A lot of times we don't do that. And we say,
we don't do that. So we just say yes, and then we're like, oh my God, what did I get myself into?
And halfway down we're burnt out, we're exhausted,
Yeah.
and now we're serving from that place of exhaustion. So, for example, in ministry, you say yes, maybe you really were interested in the activity or in the position or the assignment, and then halfway through you find that you're serving from that place of exhaustion and maybe even annoyance, and the spirit behind it is not at the right place. And so it speaks to analyzing the commitment level. So that pause and process it. What's the commitment? Or even ask questions.
Absolutely. I was just going to say that. Ask questions.
Ask the right questions. Okay, what would this require of me? How much time? How much meetings would I have to commit to?
Yeah, because there's the time commitment as well.
Yeah.
And those are things you would have to kind of weigh before
Yeah.
saying yes again. Then they're expecting that.
Yeah.
Because there's an expectation when you say yes, right?
That's right. And so, and then you weigh it against everything else that's going on in your life, not in isolation, but so you're weighing it. And then from that standpoint, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be saying no to everything because I've weighed it and I'm too busy. You're still going to be able to say yes to things, but it means you've weighed it, you've analyzed, and you've counted the cost of what this is going to cost me, and I can't commit. So when I give my yes, I am all in.
Yes.
I'm able to give yes. And at the same time, I'm able to analyze where maybe I need to say no here. Or maybe I need to adjust and say I can only give this much, or I can only commit to this amount of time, or this level of commitment or involvement in the activity. And so that's one of the things that I think helps us manage to not find ourselves in that place of exhaustion, and we're serving from that overflow.
I think clarity is key when in terms of where do I say yes and where do I say no?
Right.
Understanding where you are at, having a clear picture of where you're supposed to be and what you're called to in that season kind of helps you sift through, okay, right, this may be something good, but not necessarily good for this season. It doesn't fit into the season, So having clarity, I think, brings a little bit more, it makes it, I wouldn't say easier, but it makes the process a lot more, I'll just use the word easy, yes.
Yes.
In terms of just kind of analyzing, all right, do I say yes here? Do I say no? And I love that point that you brought. Kind of pause before you commit. Ask questions as well.
And even as you touched on season, that's something that's so critical for us. Generally people go through seasons. You have seasons of doing different things in life. You're in primary school, in secondary school,
Yeah.
you're in university. Different things are required. You enter the working world. But I feel like as women, we have an added element where if it looks different for us. So we have all those other seasons, but we
Yeah.
also have where, okay, I'm single. I'm now married, so there's a different commitment required of me. I have children added to the mix. That's a different commitment level. And those seasons look different for us in terms of what we can commit to as well as what our lifestyle. So even as we were speaking about, being filled,
Yes.
being filled and dedicating that time to be filled and spending time with God as a 19-year-old single young lady looks different from a 35-year-old woman who is married with children and working
Yeah.
and maybe studying as well. And so you can even hear us saying this today and say, that sounds good, but my schedule is crazy and so much is demanded of me. And so it looks different in the different seasons. But what I appreciate about Jesus is that he is able to reach us whatever season we're in.
Yeah.
I remember reading some time back that, we saw the difference with the men in the Bible versus the woman in the Bible. So the men in the Bible, they would go and get the word from God and they would be all over the place doing all sorts of things. And the difference was Christ, he met the woman where they are. So their normal routine is I have to go by the well and get water because
Yes.
I'm doing something for the home. He met them there. He met her there. He went to
Yeah.
where she was at. And I think that it's similar where Christ is able to reach us where we're at. So you may find, I'm drawing an example, you may have a husband and wife, and the husband could get up at 4 and do his devotions for 2 hours and then get up and get ready for work. And that's fine. But the woman may be up, she may get up at 5, but when she's up at 5, she's making lunch and,
she's
and,
prepping for the day.
yeah, she's prepping for the day. And so it looks different, but it doesn't say that, because I'm imagining somebody out there saying, I'm not seeing where I can fit this into my schedule. I'm already, that little extra hour, if I could get up like my husband at 4 too, but I need a little more sleep because I have so much to do. And so he's able to meet us where we are. And so while you're cooking,
Yes.
and you have that music playing and you're having your time with God, you're in the car. That's one of the things that has recently been really meaningful to me, that I'm in my car on the way to the office.
Same.
And I'm having
Because
my...
you're alone, right?
Yeah.
You're able to get that space. I think you're right. We need to find, maybe within our schedules, kind of find, hey, where could I slip away a little bit? So it may be on your drive to work.
Yeah.
It may be your lunch hour. It may be, like you're saying, when you wake up early in the morning to prep for the day. Or even at night when you have that quiet 5 minutes
Yes.
before
Like I use 5
you
minutes,
fall
yes.
asleep.
Yeah. But even with these seasons, as we were speaking about seasons, in each season there's space still, or there's room for Christ to meet us, to fill us, so that we can really be serving from the overflow. Yeah. One of my favorite passages of scripture comes from Luke chapter 10, where Jesus went to the home of Mary and Martha.
Yes.
And it means so much to me because I am busy like Martha oftentimes.
I feel like most of us are.
And you see Martha in the story, she's busy, she's being
doing.
a super host. She's
Yeah.
organizing, she's preparing the refreshment, she's doing what she has to do, and she's complaining, Jesus, tell Mary to help me. Mary is there sitting at Jesus' feet just listening to him, and Jesus' admonition that Mary has chosen what is better. Martha's doing what is necessary. Yes, it's not that it's not necessary. It's necessary. We have to get those children ready.
Yeah.
They have to get to school. Our husbands need our attention. We need to spend
Yes.
time with them and pour into our marriage as well. We need to get our work done. We have deadlines. We have to commit to our ministry assignments. All that is necessary. But he said that she chose what is better.
Yeah.
And that really stands out for me, that in the midst of all that we're doing that's necessary, we have to still ensure that we make space and we find the time and reach out to God, because he's always there. He's always there waiting to connect with us, and ensure that we find that space to reach out to him.
Absolutely. That's one of my favorite stories as
Yeah.
well, because I as well connect with Martha, busy doing, and neglecting the being with him. And there's a scripture that says that he delights in us.
Yeah.
And that just blows my mind, because of God that big, you know. Thinks so much of us as his creation, his children. It's just amazing,
Yes.
really. It's just amazing. One of the things that I wanted to touch on, just to kind of backtrack in terms of that rest. Rest is responsible.
Right.
And rest is necessary, and the Bible talks about resting.
Yeah.
In Genesis 2, verses 2 to 3, it says, on the seventh day, God finished his work of creation, so he rested from all, keyword, all his work.
Shut it off. Yes.
Yeah, shut off, and God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy. And that word, that just, I think, kind of tells us how serious rest is.
Yeah.
God sees it as something holy.
Yeah.
And so if we're pursuing Christ and our walk with Christ, we should be pursuing the things that he has taught us to do, which is also to kind of to rest. And like you mentioned earlier, pull away sometimes. It's good, it's healthy to do so.
I think, even having children, one of the things that we always have to admonish them is to get in your bed. Get in your bed. Go and sleep. Like, why are you so? What animosity do you have with sleep that you need to fight against it so much? And it is because
do you not remember being that?
I know. We remember it, but as a parent now, we have the wisdom to see you need to rest. We know that even let's say from toddler ages, we know that they're cranky. We know that they're irritable when they don't get sleep. We see the value that the rest has for them as their parents, and so we are admonishing them, and then we as adults, we're like, I wish I could sleep. How much time you could get to sleep, and so we see the value of it in hindsight, as you're saying. We have the wisdom as the parents, and just like you're saying, God in his wisdom is seeing the value of us resting, and he's like, would you just rest? Woman of promise, would you just rest? Because it's needed.
Take a break, please. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to your family, the same family that you think needs you all the time, showing up. We need, like you mentioned earlier, we cannot pour from an empty cup, and resting is part of that plan in terms of even being poured back into refueling. So we need to be responsible.
Yes.
We need to be responsible, We're going to go to another short break. When we come back, we wrap up this discussion. We'll be right back.
Is back. The Grand Reset with our new host, Renata Singh.
Hey, it's your girl Renata, and you can join me and my special guests every Tuesday from 12:15 to 1 p.m. as we touch on issues that impact women of all ages, from knowing your worth and identity in Christ, fostering godly relationships, beauty, fashion, maintaining a healthy lifestyle, and more. And of course, we bring a biblical perspective to every discussion.
It's Woman of Promise, the Grand Reset, every Tuesday from 12:15 to 1 p.m. on Isaac 98.1 FM. Sponsored by Furniture Plus.
Guide. Affordable services, go home in style. It's about family. We come right away.
JE Guide Funeral Home and Crematorium Limited.
Oh, what's that day? Ambience, we do it right.
Call us at 235-5049. JE Guide.
Welcome back to Women of Promise. We're talking about serving from overflow, not exhaustion. I'm joined by Mrs. Ayana Chester, and we're going to wrap up this conversation, really. But before we do so, we just want to touch on a couple more points. Ayana, what are some practical ways women can strengthen their capacity to serve while still maintaining healthy boundaries and just our personal well-being?
Sure. I think one of the areas I would say is reframing your mindset about service. A lot of times, because it gets overwhelming for us, we view it from a place of, I don't want to say annoyance, but it's as a burden. It seems burdensome. We talk and we say, I have so much on my plate, I have so much to do, and it even reaches the point of becoming having resentment. So we have resentment for others maybe who don't have the same amount of responsibility. We have resentment towards men. Men don't have to carry this burden. Sometimes even in your home, in your marriage, you find that you have that resentment about the load that you have compared to your spouse. So you find that you're now comparing, which obviously would affect the marriage by extension. And so reframing service as stewardship and not, in the sense that, God, you have given me all these things I have, all these responsibilities, all these tasks, all these things that I have in front of me are really things that you have given me to steward. My spouse, my home, my children, my ministry, my job. These are things that you have, the time you've given me here on this earth, you have equipped me, or you have allowed me to have these things, these people as resources, as treasures to steward during my time here. And I think that's one of the things that we have to reframe. And secondly, I think changing the recipient of our service.
Okay.
So oftentimes it feels burdensome. It feels like it's a weight because we're doing it to somebody, and then we're also looking for the applause, we're looking for the acknowledgement.
Validation.
And so reframing it as, one of the scriptures that says in Colossians, when I was walking in, I saw it on the door, one of the doors leading to the studio here, in Colossians chapter 3, where it says, with all that we do, we're working with all our might as unto God and not man. And so if we're serving from that space of, I'm being filled with Christ pouring into me, and I'm also doing this to him.
Yeah.
My ministry, my home. God, I want to do my best to raise these children. I want to do my best to be the best wife that I can be. I want to do my best in my job. I want to do my best in all these spheres that I have influence, because this is really unto you.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of times we think the well done, good and faithful servant, and it's about our salvation and living for Christ, but these are all elements that are parts of it, that God, I want to honor you. I want to show my salvation. I want to show your love and your grace in me in the way that I speak. Because when we get to that place of exhaustion where the as we call it, the monster mom, we go into monster mommy mode where we're snapping and we're short with the persons around us. Monster wife, yeah. And so reframing our position from that standpoint is really critical, and also modeling Jesus. In Philippians 2, it speaks about how Jesus took his position on high. He left that position and he came and humbled himself as a servant. And I think just that humility of, God, you were willing to serve, and I'm willing to serve as well. So just again, reframing, rewiring our brains from where it says, why I have to do this? It's burdensome. It's so much, to really get to that perspective of, God, I am doing just like you. I'm humbling if you could bring yourself low to serve to the point of washing people's feet, people who are sinful, who am I to really humble myself and be willing to serve from that space, So it's all those things allow us to strengthen that capacity to serve. We're willing to serve from that better place, while we're also, so I don't want to use the word you don't like to hear, but the balance between we're ensuring that we're at that good place, because we're ensuring there's self-care, we're ensuring we're connected with God in the right way. That is balance. So that feeds into the self, but we're also required to serve on the outside, like the word says, not only look at your interests, but the interests of others.
I think that's so key. That's key.
Yeah.
It's not about us.
Yeah.
I think that, again, it's not about us. We're here, we're doing the work, quote unquote, as unto God, like you mentioned, but there's a bigger picture in terms of our role and service to others. So and you mentioned that word, influence. We need to stop seeing the things that we do as just for today or tomorrow, but how does it impact or affect a person's life, whether it's our kids or our spouse, the persons that we work with.
Right.
How does it impact their life for eternity?
Yes.
And the way that we steward those relationships and serve in those spaces, it counts and it matters.
Yes. Yeah. Those they have eternal value.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so with it, again, we need to shift the way that we see. You use that word, rewire, and I wish that could just be done with the snap of a finger, because that would make it so easy.
Yes.
Like, you could just snap your fingers, brain
Yes,
rewires
yeah.
itself and you're able to live a
Yeah.
particular way. But let's be real, we've been taught a particular way, we've been living
Yeah.
even a
And I
particular
think too,
way.
the society we live in is bombarding us
Yep.
with a different
Perspective.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not founded in the word. So we also have to battle against, okay, I'm
Yeah.
hearing these things and I have to filter
Yeah.
it and see
Yeah.
what to take, or, take it with a pinch of salt. Yeah, so
most
all
things.
of that. Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, it can become a lot, but I think once we approach it with some measure of intentionality
Yes.
every day, it's the daily thing,
Yes.
right? We can see progress in this area in terms of just not serving from overflow and not from that place of exhaustion. I think one of the things that I would like, and I hope that women would take away from today's program, is that, hey, if you are in that space where you're seeing those red flags, quote unquote,
Right.
that's kind of indicating, hey, I'm leading towards burnout or exhaustion. It's time to pause. It's time to
Yes.
stop. It's time to take stock. It's time to make some changes. Even we want to be in that place where we're able to serve our families. We're able to serve in whatever ministry capacity that we do, or even at our job places. Really, we want to serve at that place of overflow,
Yes.
where. But do you have any closing comments for us before we wrap up?
I think just to reiterate that, there needs to be that balance, which sometimes we tip the scale because we feel like we've been pouring out so much,
Yeah.
and so we think we're dealing with everyone else.
Yeah.
Everybody else is catered to, and I'm neglecting myself, that we go to the other extreme where I need to just see about myself, and we could risk the temptation, or the temptation is there to now turn the attention only to me. I need to just do me. I need to see about me. Again, the worldly perspective tells us
Yeah.
that, and so I think just making sure we manage the two. I was reading over the Philippians verse just to make sure, because I said, is it more than ourselves we have to see about others? But it literally said, look after not only your interests, but also. So the not only and but also speaks about it, having it measured or
That
balanced
balance,
on the
yeah,
scale.
yeah.
Not put it, because we could feel that way that, okay, I need to leave myself undone,
Yeah, yeah.
so that I could see about others. And also we could also go to the other extreme of, I'm leaving others undone. So the others around me are feeling neglected, because now
Yes.
I'm prioritizing self-care, guys. Mommy is
And let's
in
be
the
real, the
spa.
culture, that's what the culture
That's
pushes.
exactly.
Self.
Yeah.
All about self.
Yeah, and so the word gives us that balance, where we seek to look after not only our interests, but also to others. And so that's the balance there, that we can be our best as servants of others in the different capacities that
Yeah.
we are, if we allow ourselves to be filled in the right way.
Absolutely love that. I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to spend this time with us, really, and just pour out into the women that are listening. I think
Yes.
it's such a beautiful conversation. I know it would have been very refreshing to
Yeah.
those listening. But next week we continue this discussion. We'll be talking about how we as women can begin to walk together and not alone, because we like to do things in isolation at times. So I'll catch up with you guys next week, same time, same place. Take care.
Women of Promise is back. The Grand Reset with our new host, Renata Singh.
Hey, it's your girl Renata, and you can join me and my special guests every Tuesday from 12:15 to 1 p.m. as we touch on issues that impact women of all ages, from knowing your worth and identity in Christ, fostering godly relationships, beauty, fashion, maintaining a healthy lifestyle, and more. And of course, we bring a biblical perspective to every discussion.
It's Women of Promise, the Grand Reset, every Tuesday from 12:15 to 1 p.m. on Isaac 98.1 FM. Sponsored by Furniture Plus.